Welcome back, everyone, to our Let's Play series of Winds of Trade. Now, as you can see on the screen here, we have a fresh start on a different map. And the reason I did that is simply because in the first three videos I did, all on the same map, those were recorded shortly after release and before any updates were done and released by the developers of the game. And in the time since that my last video was recorded, there have been, I believe, 3 updates issued that made some major changes. And in general, whenever there are changes made to a game, it's good to get a fresh start with a brand new save, if at all possible. Now, in my case, I was trying to decide if I wanted to do that, and finally decided to go ahead and do it simply because I wasn't all that far in. Even though I had done the 3 videos, they were mostly just, playing around a little bit, showing some of the different aspects of the game itself, mostly about how the trading system works and how you can look within each of the towns and set up those types of routes and pick your different parts and pieces that you want to play the game with. So I finally decided that we didn't really have that much money. We had, dropped a ship or 2 in battle, so it really wasn't that big a deal to me. So we're on a fresh map here, and if I zoom out, you can see we got a total of 3 islands here, and we are currently operating down at what is actually the top of the map, but for us is actually at the bottom. And the reason why that's pretty much where I started the game. Let's go ahead and zoom back in, and I'm going to turn this thing back around because that's how I'm used to seeing this particular map. All right, so what we've been doing is right now, if I click on our ship, we've still got our starter ship, and it's been doing a very short run back and forth. Now, unfortunately, and the city names in this game are just throwing me for a huge loop. I'm going to have to assume, because I haven't really paid attention, that the developer is from a different country, because these names are just completely foreign to me in every way, and most of these I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce. So basically, I'm just going to make up my own names for them as we go along. So I've been trading amongst these 2 cities, again, just to try to get back sort of where we left off, money-wise and ship-wise, with our previous video. So you can see here we are at roughly about $30,000 to $31,000 right now, and with our one ship, it is a small ship which is only capable of carrying 80 cargo at one time, and unfortunately this particular trade route is only making us money one way, because Playtie here is not, I didn't have anything that I could carry back on the return trip to sell in Bonarath. So that is disappointing. And so what it essentially means is that we are able to make around $800 to $1,000 roughly per round trip. So again, it'd be nice if we could sell items both ways, but it didn't work out that way. So we'll just go with it. Before we get into too many more details about this, I want to talk a little bit about, and let's go ahead and attempt to escape. Success percentage is 100%. And okay, let's go ahead and mention that before we get to the updates, because there's a reason why that happened. Number one, I chose a smaller ship. And the reason I chose a smaller ship is because I actually started up on a different map and made a ton of money. I mean, it was $300,000-$400,000 that I had made very quickly on that map. So I decided against it because it was a little bit easier than I wanted to show on video. I wanted to show a map that was a little bit more difficult and challenging. But one of the things I determined on there is, while I can have a huge ship, it becomes very difficult to maintain long term, simply because with that ship I'm going to get into battles I cannot outrun, so I'm forced to engage in the battle. And I had, on multiple occasions, I simply got teamed up on by 2 or 3 ships that were as large or larger than mine. And we're talking about a ship that I had up to, I believe, 20 to 24 cannons on. So it was a pretty powerful ship, and it was as upgraded as I could get it, and still I was losing ships. So I decided that my best bet was to try to outrun them. So what I did here is I chose the smallest ship. And if you look at our captain, he is a great sailor, level 5. Now, level 5 gives us, I believe, a 30% boost in speed, basically meaning that in nearly all instances, we should be able to outrun our attackers, in addition to the upgraded speed that we get in traveling back and forth. So I think that's probably the best. Now, there's a second reason for that. I also figured out very quickly, and as I've been playing the game some more, that trading in large quantities really doesn't help you out that much, because what it does is it ends up tanking the pricing. And essentially that meant for me, because I like to use the auto route trading, and what it essentially meant for me was all of these trading routes were not viable for very long at all, meaning that by the time I set up the auto route, the trading route would last, a few turns, and then I would have to make changes and really spend more time dealing with it. So I might as well have just been controlling the path myself. So I decided to do some testing out, and that's what I've been doing with this particular playthrough. You can see we're now up over $40,000 of profit. So I'm not making very much profit at any one given time. But what I'm doing is, you can see I've got cotton, and I believe that's sugar. And let's see if we can attempt escape. Yes, success, 100%. And all right, so that's what I like to see. So I think what I want to do is focus on smaller ships, which don't carry as much, which is actually perfect, because I can trade anywhere from 40 to 50 of each thing. Now, it doesn't give me as much profit, but it means that I can generally outrun most anything else on the ocean, and it keeps the pricing from dropping too drastically, so that the route itself is no longer a good idea. Another thing I've been doing with this map since I started, and I can show you that if we come back out to this main screen, you can see the profit that the AI has been putting up. I mean, we're doing good. We are the East India Company, because, quite frankly, I forgot when I was setting up the new world to change the name to Knee Pit Gaming. So you can see how far behind we are, and that's essentially because I haven't been paying it a whole lot of attention. I've been focusing on trying to just play around on the map and just see some different things in how the mechanics were working. And one of the things I've done is I've gone around to nearly every potential port and city around, and I have purchased a trade office. Okay, and those get pretty expensive the more you do. You start out, they cost $1,000 to $2,000 in general, and then they move up as you purchase more to costing $5,000 to $10,000 each. And every once in a while you get a reward for opening up a trade route and a trade office in some of the cities, where they'll give you a few $1,000s back. But for the most part, it gets pretty expensive pretty quick. But I haven't been too terribly worried about that, because we're on sandbox mode, and I'm not worried about actually losing or anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some updates that have been released for the game. Again, as I mentioned earlier, before we got off on talking about pirate attacks and the speed of the ship, we've had, I believe, again, 3 updates since I last recorded a video. And some of the important updates to me were, now you can sort the prices window. Number 1, so we've got our goods prices. Now, if we come in, let's just pick something so we can get tables filled out. So I can now sort by any of these columns, ascending or descending. Okay, so that is a huge deal. I think I had mentioned in maybe the last video that was something that was very sorely needed. Also, now shipyards becomes visible. One of the things that gets kind of irritating is whenever you click on a city and you find out, okay, it doesn't have a shipyard, and you end up having to click on several cities to find out which ones have shipyards. If I back my way out, we'll notice that now on the legend, cities with shipyards have a white box around them, and you can start to see these around the map. So it makes it a little bit easier if you're deciding on where you want to expand. You can find out where these shipyards are located, and you can see in our general area there are several indeed. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom back in. And we can still see our little ship that is going about its business. We're now up to roughly 70,000 in profit. So we've made a great deal even since we've been started on this particular video. Another thing is supposedly the pirate attacks have been reduced. I'm not quite sure about that one because, we've had one since we got started here, and I've had a couple just recently before I started recording. So I'm not exactly sure that that's that greatly reduced, or maybe I'm just having some bad luck here. Also, they've added a tutorial to the main menu. You can go in and it shows you some of the basics. Nothing that we haven't already seen in the first few videos that I've done, but it shows you some of the basics of how to select your ship, how to select a city, some basic mechanics of how to tell what they have for sale, the quantities, how to buy certain items, that type of thing. So some of the very beginning basics. Here we go. There's another attack, attempt an escape, and success 100%. So yes, let's do that. And so now we don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about losing any ships from that angle. All right. Also, you now have through the auto trading, if we click on the route at the bottom, we can now see just how much money we've made on the route that you see here. Now, we've talked about in previous videos how these work and how you add go-to actions to go to certain cities, buy and sell actions there. And then, of course, if you just want to start fresh, remove everything. But so far, since I've gotten started, you can see quite a bit of money, nearly $130,000 we've made on just this one very quick and very small route. So that is a great way to keep track of, especially as you continue to grow your fleet. You'll have the ability to see exactly whether each and every ship in their particular route is profitable and continues to be profitable for you. And then finally, and quite possibly one of the biggest updates for me, and this may not have even been an update to the game, it just may have been something that I simply finally found out that I didn't realize before, and that is if we press escape and we go to the controls, now you can see that we can change the game speed and manipulate that using the keyboard rather than me having to. If you remember from previous videos, I was having all sorts of trouble clicking on the pause button in particular to get the game to pause each time we made it into a city. Well, spacebar will now pause the game, and then you can use the function keys 1 through 3 to change the game speed. And that has absolutely been tremendous for me. That has saved me so much stress that I was going through, particularly in video number 3 of our Let's Play series, the most recent video where I was having lots and lots of trouble trying to get this thing to pause. Well, now all I need to do is hit the space bar and we're good to go. All right, so let's take a look at where we want to go on this map. Again, we've got one very successful trade route. We're now over 130,000 on it, but I've been looking around a little bit in some of these other areas and some of the other cities to see where I wanted to go from here, because obviously at this point we're up near $90,000 and it looks like we're about to make it. Yeah, we're now over $90,000. So we've got plenty of money to purchase a new ship and expand our fleet. Well, with that in mind, what I've been doing is, as I was opening ports in these particular cities, I would take a look at a few things. And number one, I wanted to see how much they had of any of these items in their particular warehouse. So 500 plus, 500 plus, even 100 to 300. All of these are viable options for me. Also, I was taking a look at the industries tab because I wanted to see what they had available. Now, this particular city, which is, we're going to call it K, they have a lot of farming. In other words, they have a lot of things that they only need manpower and population to run. Okay, so that means they have a lot of raw ingredients and raw materials available for purchase, and you can see here the amounts. Now, they don't make very much cotton, but the cotton they're using in the textile mill to make fabric. They're also making some opium, which I'm trying to stay away from for this playthrough because, let's be honest, trading in opium is a get-rich-quick scheme in this game, and almost kind of like a cheat mode, and a very easy way to get a lot of money very early on in the game. So I've tried to stay away from it. Again, I want to do some different things instead of just relying on the quick fixes to get us through. You can also see that depending on the level of the particular, in this case, the farms, the higher the level, the more they produce per day in general, although this is very weird that it's producing very little cotton per day, even though it's a very high level farm compared to the others in the area. So they're getting quite a bit of grain, 44 per day, 20 sugar per day, and so on. So I've been looking at these type things, and I've discovered some trading routes that I want to get started on. Now, for this particular city, we're going to call it K. And my goodness, we got all sorts of news items adding up here. So for this particular city, they do a few things well. Number one is cotton. They got tons and tons of cotton. And remember, I'm keeping the quantities small, somewhere between 40 to 60 per trade. So we should have no problem there. Okay, even though they're not making very much, we should be pretty good on cotton. Also, grain. We do pretty good there. Also, although it looks like they have been running low there, so we're going to have to be careful about trying to trade that. And then, of course, the opium if we want to go that route. But for the most part, I'm looking at setting up a trade route for cotton for this particular thing. Although, again, we'll have to keep in mind, they're not making very much cotton. Okay, now maybe that will change once we get to trading with them, because that should help level up the cotton production. And again, that's one of the parts of the game that we'll just have to learn. All right, so this is one of the cities that does not have a shipyard. So we'll come back over here, and they do have a shipyard. All right, so again, we're looking to keep everything very low, so the cargo capacity is not an issue for me. 80 to 100 is perfectly fine. One of the things I am looking at is max speed. I want to get that as fast as possible. So here you can see 15 on a couple of the ships. I actually like this one because it doesn't have very much upkeep to it, and it's also very cheap. So if we're willing to wait the 27 days, then we'll be good there. Or we could simply go with this one now, which has a cargo capacity of 120, which is more than sufficient, quite a bit more upkeep, but it's still just as fast and costs us 18,000. I think we're going to go here, and we've got plenty of room for cannons if we decide to go that route. Let's go ahead and accept that. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, and now we need to find a captain. Now, if you remember from what we talked about before, I am looking for a sailor. If we go back to our main ship, you can see a level 5 sailor. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Let's look through the taverns. There's a level 3 sailor, not bad. Okay, let's look around. No sailors here. Very nice gunner here, though, for 60% precision. Very nice. And shipwrights, okay, which are very good if you're looking for, if you're looking to do a lot of fighting, then they will really lower the cost. But so far, I'm not seeing what I'm looking for as far as a great sailor. Oh, here we go. Here's one right here, and you can see 30% extra speed. So we're going to hire this guy, which is in, we're going to call this ammo. Okay, we're going to hire this guy, and we're going to try to assign him, but you can see we don't have any ships that are at this city right now. So let's go in and make sure we have this ship selected, and let's turn back on the time. There we go. So now we've got our ship up here, and we're going to assign our captain, which is in this city and awaiting orders. Do we want to assign this captain? Absolutely we do. So now this should put us in the same situation as our other ship, which means that it should be able to flee any potential attacks that might come upon it. And that is huge for me. All right. So now, what do we want to start trading? Well, I had mentioned that for the time being, at least, I think we can make a lot of money in cotton and in this particular city. So let's go ahead and get our ship down here. Again, it's costing us money to do all this moving around, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. So our trading route is going to be back and forth between K and Mathala. Now, what do we have in Mathala? Wood. If we come up here and take a look, you can see that somewhere along the line, there we go, they're able to make about 27 wood per day. And you can also see they're using some of this in various ways. But again, we're going to run this particular route for as long as we can. So let's go ahead and get it set up. Let's drag this window over here out of the way. Okay, and we can almost get everything we want here in line. So we're going to start with a go-to action, and we're going to go to city K, which is this one. Okay, and what are we going to buy? Well, we're going to buy cotton. Again, for right now, they have plenty of cotton. Okay, and maximum amount, we're going to buy a maximum amount of 50. Again, we're going to keep things low to try to keep the prices steady. I'm not going to worry about the price that I'm going to pay because I don't think it will be an issue. So once we get this cotton, I'm going to have us head to Mathala. Okay, and I've not seen any reason to really worry about the number of days we're going to stay because I don't, for one thing, I don't want to stay too long because that's just more cost. Let's just keep things moving. All right, so the first thing we're going to do whenever we get there is sell the cotton, but we're also going to buy. While we're there, we're going to buy, and we're going to buy wood. Okay, shouldn't have to worry about anything on the sell side because we're only going to have a maximum of 50, and we should have no trouble selling those 50. So I'm not going to worry about, again, the prices should not fluctuate because we're trading in smaller quantities. So we're going to buy wood. Okay, and then we're going to do a go-to action. Now, this isn't going to be the most impressive way of setting this up, but I'm essentially setting it up this way so that I can talk my way through it on the video as to what we're doing step by step. So then once we purchased, we started here in K, we purchased our cotton, then we went to Mathala, then the first thing we did was sold that cotton, and then we bought wood. Now we're going to travel back to K, and then our final action here is going to be to sell the wood. And then it should start all over, and which is travel back to K. We're already there, so it'll skip that step, and then it'll buy cotton and so on. Okay, we've got our captain in place. Okay, we'll go ahead. All right, here we go. We've got our 50 cotton, and we're going to press this button. Let's see, we're under attack. Here's our first opportunity to see if we can escape. Yes, we can, 100%. So we're good to go there. We're going to press the crosshairs here, which will mean that we will follow along with this particular ship, and we'll see how things go. Make sure everything is working, and if not, okay, so far so good. You can see that we sold the cotton, picked up the wood. Now we're back at K. Okay, sold the wood, picked up the cotton, and let's go ahead and see. Okay, we made $94. Wow, a huge amount there. Okay, we'll let this run for a little bit, and then we'll see how things go. Again, not sure exactly how profitable it's going to be at the very beginning, and who knows, we may have to dump this route and pick up a completely different route. Okay, now we have no cargo, so let's go ahead and click here. Okay, so we've made about $1,500, and the reason I wanted to catch it before we purchase cargo is obviously once you purchase the cargo, that's going to reduce your profitability because you just spent the money for more cargo. Okay, so not hugely profitable, but it is still profitable overall. Now, another thing, as I deselect our ship, you notice here on the coastline here, there looks like a beacon almost that is calling out to us. And what that is that's a spot for a colony. Okay, if you remember from our first video, whenever I started this particular save, I chose to check the box which would open up everything from the very beginning, which would include colonies and auto trade. Normally auto trade only opens up once you have at least 3 ships owned. We only have 2 at this point, and colonies only open up once you're, if we go to a city here, our relation with that particular country gets to friendly. Now we're still neutral here, so we wouldn't be able to do this had I not checked that box. What this is, it's a colony location. So if we click on it, you see we have the ability to set up a new colony. Okay, so what happens if we build a colony or a settlement here? Well, we could choose to make it a tobacco plantation, which would cost us $50,000. Probably not what we want to do right now, but $50,000 and cost us $35 a week, and it would make 2 tobacco per day. And again, it would have the ability to level up just like all of the other businesses do in each of the cities. Or we could make a lumber camp, which would give us 5 wood per day, and you can see the cost involved there as well. So at this particular point in time, we're not ready to shell out that money just yet, but it's good to know that we have the options. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, once you get past the initial cost of setting this up, you're going to have the goods for free. So you're going to be able to come into town, pick up the wood, and take it to whatever city you want and sell it. So it should, in theory, give you a huge amount of profit. All right, let's go ahead and select our other ship one more time. And we're going to let it make another round here. One more cycle through up and back, and then we'll pause it as soon as we get back. And hopefully we can pause it. There we go. So we've got it paused. Click on the trade route. Okay, now we're up to $3,600. Again, not a huge amount per trip, and I'm hoping to find some even better routes as we continue to expand. But the idea is, for me at this point, and for this video and in future videos, the idea is that I'm going to get small, light ships that have very high speed, and also I'm going to try to get a great sailor as the captain, so that it will further increase our speed and give us, if not 100%, near 100% probability of outrunning any and all potential attacks. I like that idea. That way we can keep things standard, because one of the things I don't want to get into is having to constantly build and create new ships, because every time I do that, it means I've got to redo the trade route step by step by step, and that's just a pain, and it's more trouble than I want to go through, and more trouble than for me it would ever be worth. Okay, so we've got some new additions for this video. The game, again, 3 updates, a lot going on with the game, and by all indications, the developer has plans to continue to issue more updates. Okay, so we've got another, it says it's a medium party here. We're going to attempt escape. Okay, it's only 95% this time. We want to try it. Okay, we managed to outrun them. So I like my chances with 95%. All right, and essentially what we want to do is, the idea is to keep this up. And then if at some point we lose the ship, our hope is that by that time we've at least made back the amount of money we spent on the ship itself. So at this point, $3,200 is, we spent more than that to get the ship. However, it's a chance we take in the game of trading. So thank you very much for joining me. We're going to leave the video here for this time. When we come back next time, we'll be looking more intently at expanding our fleet, and then before too long, we'll be looking at setting up colonies. So thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for more Winds of Trade.